People heard it 3,000 miles away, with no phone, no radio, just their ears. It bounced around the entire planet 4 times. And the strangest part, the people closest heard absolutely nothing. August 27th, 1883. The island of Krakatoa sits in the Sunda Strait, between Java and Sumatra, in what is now Indonesia. For months it had been grumbling. Steam columns, minor quakes, small eruptions. Enough that Dutch colonial authorities sent a ship to investigate. The ship came back with nothing alarming to report. That was the last reassuring news anyone would get. At 10:02 in the morning, Krakatoa did not simply erupt. It obliterated itself. The entire northern 2/3 of the island collapsed into the sea in under 2 minutes, releasing energy scientists now estimate at roughly 10,000 Hiroshima-scale atomic bombs. The ash column punched roughly 50 miles straight up, well past the weather, well past commercial airspace, all the way into the mesosphere. Pyroclastic flows, superheated avalanches of gas and pulverized rock moving faster than a Category 5 hurricane, raced across the surface of the water and scorched islands miles away. But the ash, the heat, the tsunamis, none of it was the most extraordinary thing Krakatoa produced that morning. The sound was. At the moment of the main explosion, the sound registered at approximately 180 decibels, measured from 100 miles away. A jet engine at full thrust, right next to your ear, hits about 140 decibels, and that will permanently destroy your hearing in seconds. The decibel scale is logarithmic. Every 10 points is not a little louder, it is 10 times more intense in acoustic energy. That means 180 decibels is not just 40 points louder than a jet engine, it is 10,000 times more intense in acoustic energy. And remember, that was the reading taken 100 miles from the source. Sailors on ships in the strait, miles from the blast, had their eardrums physically ruptured by the overpressure wave passing through their bodies. Now here is the detail that resets your sense of what sound is even capable of. Police officers on the island of Rodriguez, in the Indian Ocean, heard what they described as distant cannon fire, and sent ships out searching the horizon for a vessel in distress. Rodriguez is 3,000 miles from Krakatoa, roughly the straight line distance from Los Angeles to New York, then almost halfway back again. They heard it with their bare ears, outdoors through open air with zero technology. Krakatoa was heard across roughly 1/13 of the entire surface of the Earth. No other sound in recorded history has come within a fraction of that range. But the sound wave itself was only the opening act of what this explosion set loose on the planet. When Krakatoa detonated, it sent an atmospheric pressure wave rippling outward in every direction at roughly 760 miles per hour, the speed of sound at sea level. Barometers, instruments that measure air pressure, spiked wildly in cities thousands of miles away, in places that felt nothing, heard nothing, and had no idea what was coming. In Calcutta, in Melbourne, in Honolulu, in Paris, instruments that had been ticking steadily for years suddenly lurched off their charts. Scientists had no idea what they were looking at, until about 19 hours later, when the barometers spiked again, as the wave returned from the opposite direction after circling the globe. The pressure wave from Krakatoa circled the entire planet not once, not twice, but 4 complete times, and researchers tracked it on barometers across 5 days. A single explosion, 2 minutes of geological violence, produced a ripple that bounced around Earth like a ping pong ball in a sealed room, still measurable 5 days later. And while the atmosphere was still ringing, the ocean was doing something far more deadly. The island's collapse triggered a series of tsunamis, the largest reaching approximately 100 feet, taller than a 9-story building, that struck the coasts of Java and Sumatra within minutes. More than 36,000 people died, and the majority were killed not by fire or ash, but by that wall of water. Ships in the strait were scooped up and carried miles inland, left sitting in jungle and rice fields when the water retreated. One steamship, the Berus, was carried nearly 2 miles inland and deposited 30 feet above sea level, and the wreck sat visible on that hillside for decades. The explosion also left its mark written into the rock itself. A distinct white layer of pumice and ash visible in cliff faces across the region marks August 27, 1883, as clearly as a date stamped in concrete. The ash Krakatoa pumped into the upper atmosphere, then did something that affected every person on Earth, whether they knew it or not. It circled the globe and dropped average global temperatures by more than 1 degree Celsius, roughly 2 degrees Fahrenheit, for the following full year. Sunsets worldwide turned violent shades of violet, green, and deep crimson for months. so vivid that fire brigades in New York and Connecticut were dispatched because residents reported the sky was on fire. Artists painted those skies, and the paintings looked absurd, too saturated, too dramatic, until scientists confirmed the colors were caused by sulfur particles refracting sunlight at the edge of the stratosphere. Some researchers now believe those bizarre skies inspired Edvard Munch's The Scream. Painted 10 years later in 1893, the blood-red sky behind the figure wasn't artistic exaggeration, it was a memory. So that covers what Krakatoa did to the sky, the ocean, and the land. But there is one more thing it did to sound itself that scientists are still talking about today. Scientists studying the Krakatoa records discovered a ring stretching from roughly 100 miles to 600 miles from the blast, where people heard absolutely nothing. People 600 miles away were deafened by the boom, while people 200 miles away heard total silence. And this baffled researchers for years. The explanation is a phenomenon called acoustic shadow. At extreme intensities, sound waves at certain frequencies bend upward into the upper atmosphere and skip entirely over a middle zone before curving back down and becoming audible again much farther away. The people in that silent zone were not spared by distance. They were in the skip zone, the precise spot where the sound leapt clean over their heads. The same acoustic shadow effect was recorded in World War I, where troops in certain trenches heard a distant battle clearly, while towns directly between them and the guns heard nothing at all. Krakatoa did not just produce the loudest sound in history, it accidentally taught us that sound at planetary scale does not travel in a simple expanding circle. It leaps, bends, and skips across continents. And the story does not end in 1883, because 44 years later, in 1927, fishermen in the Sunda Strait watched a new island break the surface of the sea at the exact spot where Krakatoa used to be.